Good people, welcome to Insight. And on Insight tonight, we want to, well, have some insights from today's occurrences. What happened on the streets of this country? What happened along the corridors of power and indeed elsewhere, and the significance therein? Tonight, I am joined by two gentlemen here to help us break this down, help us to understand what exactly happened today from the different perspectives that they carry. We have, right on my right is Mr. Sikolia Kisaka. You have other names and you wear many hats, but tonight you come in as a political analyst. Karibu sana.
More like a strategist, but yeah.
Strategist,
yeah.
Indeed. We'll gain some insight from that. And we also have Mr. Haron Waweru. Karibu sana.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe you had some mishaps,
Yeah.
Masaibu, today in town.
It was quite tough.
In fact, we'll start with you. But before we do, ladies and gentlemen, you know how we do it. You send in your feedback, you send in your questions, you send in your perspectives through the SMS line, which is on your screen. And I'd like my producers to put up the WhatsApp number. It will come directly here. Please don't call it. Please just send in your message, and I'd be happy to read it and be able to sample it live on air. Questions to our guests, but also points and perspectives from where you come from. Thank you so much. Karibu sana. Haron, talk to us. Where were you today?
Well, I was in town for most part of the day, but, you know, being young in town nowadays is a crime apparently, because you can't sit, stand or smile from any point.
Is that so?
Yeah, wherever you stand, siweni Gen Z. So that was the situation. Even if you're going to work or anything, being young in Kenya has apparently become a crime.
Is that so?
Yeah, from my point of view, that's how I felt.
What were you doing? What were you up to, if I may ask?
At first, I had gone to see someone, but then, because being in town as a young person is a crime, well,
you were caught up in the...
They don't want to know what you're doing there or where you're going. So long as you're young, you're in trouble. So because you're marked as a black sheep, you join the black sheep. So,
right. If the shoe fits.
If the shoe fits, you put it on.
I see. What about you, Mr. Kisaka? Where were you today and what did you observe?
Thankfully, I was actually working from home. Interestingly enough, much as I was working from home, I was definitely on air, watching what's happening, getting calls from friends, some of the groups that we are in, and just being able to see what's happening around the country. And it's been quite an interesting day, I'm put it that way.
Talk to me about some of the things that stood out for you and why.
I'll say one of the first things that stood out for me is watching a crippled person, a disabled person who's on crutches, being manhandled and thrown into a vehicle. And I was wondering what kind of threat was he actually to the public or even to the police, because there's quite a number of them. And also just being able to see, the fact that in quite a number of areas, there was places where it almost looked like, these guys, the authorities were kind of provoking, people on the streets, and maybe you run in one direction just to be able to find a group of authorities, police, both uniformed and ununiformed, now arresting people. And I still, was very concerned to be able to see a lot of policemen who are not in uniform, right, in the streets with masks. And for me, the question is, if you are actually doing this and it's legal, why are you hiding your face? Why are you in plain clothes and hiding your faces? And that was quite a bit of a concern to me. But at the same time as well, just being able to see what was happening and realizing that, it's not, the tempo is not the way it was like on the 25th of June. So definitely we are at that place where something different needs to happen. We need to be able to see those who are looking and agitating for change, look at other ways in which they're going to be able to now push on the agenda forward. All right.
And we'll come back to that in a bit. Haron, I want you to tell me, just on the same line, talk to me about your opinion or your view or your experience of how the police conducted themselves today. Because there's a big difference between the last time and this time. There's a new acting police inspector general. There is also there's been a few announcements by the police coming out to say this is what we're going to do, coming out to say we've received intelligence of criminal elements in the protesters, we've seen this and that. What's different? What did you see about the police today?
Well, in terms of force, I think it was much more than, because at some point there was, we were standing, there was somewhere we were standing, and the police told the people, I think from the media, that by 6, don't be around. You should have left town. So that, I didn't know what they insinuated, but drawing back to the time when there was kind of media, they were oppressing the media or, limiting their freedom. I think they're trying to, intimidate people and push people into doing things by force, because, of course, if you don't agree with them, you have to be either beaten up or abducted or just something funny. They keep telling us that they preserve law and order, but I don't know where this law and order is being preserved, because in town today there was no, the law, who's this law representing? Is it us or is it the government? Because the people who they're supposed to protect are the same people they were beating up and oppressing. So I don't really get it.
So in your opinion, did the police do better this time or worse compared to previous times, previous protests?
In terms of brutality, they were a bit down. That's good. So I think they were quite better than how they used to do previously.
But still a lot to be desired, a lot to improve on.
Yeah, a lot is expected.
All right. What about you? What else would you say? What would be your opinion on exactly how the so-called show of force, or perhaps show of service, what would you, would you say about that?
It's of concern to me because, I believe that there are elements of the police, of the authorities that are trying to do it the right way. But then there are a few elements that, are of concern. And my biggest concern is these are supposed to be disciplined forces. So they're supposed to be getting command from one specific place, and they're supposed to be able to operate in a certain specific way. I mean, from my understanding, having engaged the police, having engaged the disciplined forces, I understand chain of command. So being able to see a video of people, a policeman in police gear actually attacking a journalist, right? And just because you're in gear and thinking that you'll not be recognized, and you're attacking a journalist, and I was asking, is that person, is the person in charge of, or rather, is the superior there, is the supervisor there? And why are they allowing this? Because that was an unprovoked attack as far as I was concerned. Looking at some of the things that were happening, seeing some of the guys who had to run into Nation Center, and some of the people on the streets, as my colleague here said, that just being a young person in the streets has become an extreme sport. Because the moment they think that you're Gen Z, they're going to attack you. They're not going to ask any questions. So that's a bit of concern to me, because my question is, are we having a rogue police force? I saw a video today. I still don't know whether it's authenticated, but I saw a video today of someone in an army uniform stating that, why have you arrested my uncle? And he specifically mentioned, I think, a policeman in some police station, and they're saying, I'm going to come out. If you have a problem with me, you come, because I'm from the disciplined forces, you're from the disciplined forces. Let us deal with one another. But then you cannot go and keep on harassing people who are unarmed. And specifically, he was talking about a family member. So you see, now that brings concern to me, because if it's someone in the military, in the army, who is unhappy with what's happening with the police, what is this going to lead into? What's going to come next? Right? Because that video, I saw it this evening, just actually on my way here, and it was of concern, and that's why I'm mentioning it, because slowly by slowly, much as we're seeing, okay, fine, maybe the government is gotten us to a place where the demos are not as intense. Okay, fine, it's not as hectic as it's been in the past, but what is happening? We've got Gen Zs talking about, all right, maybe start a political party, let's see what other avenues we've got. But then at the same time, even these small skirmishes that we're having, if they're going to bring disunity within our disciplined forces, we're in big trouble.
Right, right. Haron, why do you think the protests were not as well attended today, of all days, considering how the others have been, and considering just how much hype there had been around Nane Nane fact, to coin a phrase, Nane Nane kabla ya saa nane. But by saa nane, it was quite sleepy. It was looking quite sleepy in many towns across the country. The turnout was not as big. Why do you think this is so?
When it comes to people actually being on the streets, I think it draws to the question of their security. As said, the police are supposed to protect them, but instead of protecting the protesters, they're busy killing them. So if you're killing them, there's no way these people will, they don't feel safe in their own country to begin with. And then equally, they had blocked several of the roads. Actually, I think all roads leading to town. So if people were to come from outside town, they'd meet this police, you're young, go back. So instead of actually handling an issue, the government decides to counter by trying to show the nation that nothing is going on. Let's be calm, nothing is going on. But they're not actually handling the problem that they have at hand. They're busy, creating, distractions and whatnot. So in terms of people being present, it's all about, other than people being afraid to move out, if you're confident enough to go, you meet these people, the barricades and everything, and you have to go back.
So there are actually physical difficulties, physical danger was a bit of a deterrent.
Yeah, because, being shot is one thing.
Right. But here's another question, though. From any angle you look at it, it looks like the push, the momentum of the protests is slowing down. There are many that say that the moment of the efficacy, the effectiveness of that protest, the moment is lost. Would you agree?
In terms of, not really. Because you don't have to be on the streets to show that you are against something at some angle. It's part of the job, but there comes a time when you have to re-strategize and think of a better way, because we were on the streets for, say, 2 weeks, and we didn't get anything as Gen Z. All we got is Raila getting a position in government, which does not help me in any way whatsoever. It doesn't help any of my friends, doesn't help any of us. It doesn't better the nation in any way from how I see it. So instead of focusing on streets and demonstrations, you come up with a new strategy that is going to at least level the game for all of us.
Right. Mr. Kisaka, where do you stand on this? Why do you think there isn't as big of a turnout this time? And would you agree, or where do you stand on the question of whether the moment is lost?
I wouldn't say that the moment is lost. It's just that it's morphing into something else. Because, you cannot be able to go and do the same thing over and over and over and expect different results. If you look back at what happened on the 25th of June, was it 25th or 26th of June? The first day, and the intensity of it, and at that particular point, because people did not expect it to be at that level. And unfortunately, where it's gotten to where we're having even goons in the streets, you cannot expect to, you've seen that there are goons in the streets. People are being paid to go to the streets to be able to counter this. This is not even about the government anymore. This is, you have no idea. People have got different ideas as to why they're going to the streets. People have been paid. People have got different agendas, right? So you've got to be able to look at what's happening and change tact. Okay, so today we're coming and saying, okay, Nane Nane, we didn't see maybe as many people, and that's because as well, you had the police saying that they were ready, they had prepared. But at the same time, how many groups do we know that are talking about political parties, being able to formulate political parties? I even saw some of the Gen Zs who are already aligning with some political parties that already exist. I know of some who are thinking, can we start a political party? Can we buy a political party? What do we need to be able to do to be able to ensure that our voice is heard? And that is now actually where now, we are ensuring, or rather they're ensuring that they are following the Constitution, because that's what's put in the Constitution for us. And in line with that, we have already come and we've made sure that they know we exist. And we are not going to take things the way we were taking before, where you do whatever you want and there's nothing we're saying about it. We will make noise. But at the same time, much as we say, or much as Gen Z are saying that, they're leaderless, they're partyless, they're beginning to understand that to be able to bring the change that is required, we need to now start being strategic as well. We need to be able to start asking ourselves, who do we think amongst the people that we know are able to take up positions? Looking at like now, for instance, the cabinet, okay? I would say that I've seen in a number of areas where people are discussing and saying, in this area we should have gotten so and so. In this area we should have thought about so and so. And they're looking amongst their peers as well to see who will have been able to take up a certain cabinet position and maybe have done well. I'm actually disappointed that quite a number of those guys who are put there, who are put into the cabinet right now, are really recycled. There's nothing much that they're going to bring. And so we will be looking for them to be able to depend on the technocrats, which is the PSs and the rest. Unfortunately, again, because being the CS, even if you have technocrats who know what they need to do, if you do not empower them, then we're still going to have a problem.
Right. And actually, this is a point where we segue into looking at the other thing that happened today, which is the swearing in of cabinet secretaries. You've touched on that. I want Haron to jump in on this. From where you sit, what did you make of the event at State House? 19, first of all, yesterday, 19 approved, 1 found lacking in some regard, and then 19 of them being sworn in and showing up to begin, their shift. What do you make of that?
Okay, in as much as we need a system to run the nation, I think, as my colleague has said, we need people who actually know what is happening in that field. If it's in the field of transport, I think we do need someone who has even a bit of knowledge on how maybe construction works, how maybe roads are designed, or basics in the field in which this person is handling. Because you cannot be put in charge of, you can't be in charge of something you don't really know anything about. It doesn't make sense. Because, okay, I have a colleague who has done something to do with wildlife management, and in terms of whoever was put in charge by, I think formally, whoever was put in charge of wildlife and tourism didn't really understand what I think it was a she, was doing in that bracket. We need people who do understand what they're doing there so that they can push the country forward based on what they know.
So what's your opinion on the cabinet as it's constituted right now?
I don't really think that will solve any of our problems, because I believe in one theory personally. Before you tell me of something, say maybe you're a successful person, before I come to you for consultation, I need to see what you have done or what you have achieved. So these people, based on their former positions, those who were in government, for example, what have they done for their people in their constituents that shows they're capable of handling a bigger task in Kenya? If they cannot show if they cannot have anything to show for what they were doing at a small scale level, then how do you expect them to handle at a large scale level? It's quite impossible, I think. So if most of these people, I believe, are incompetent, they are not fit to hold these positions, because I've not seen anything they've done to change this country. I've not.
All right. You've got one of the youngest ministers sworn in, a single young man. He said he has no car. He is fairly, compared to the others at least, fairly wananchi net worth. What's your opinion on that?
At the end of the day, they all end up being the same. I don't think they put people, if, I used to ask this story, if you found a snake in your house, will you assume that it will become a lizard later on and leave it to stay there for a while? I don't think so. So if you found a snake in your house, it means that the snake hangs out with fellow snakes, not other lizards.
All right. Mr. Kisaka, what's your opinion on matters reptilian here as it regards to cabinet?
Oh, well, unfortunately, this is, for me, looking at it and thinking, it's not about cabinet to be able to ensure that the country runs. It's all politics. And that's the unfortunate aspect of it. Because I anticipated and expected that, at this particular point, we will look at it ensuring that we are bringing cabinet as maybe, professionals coming together to figure out how to be able to get the country from where it is. But then now, when you look at most of the people who are there, and these are people who, a few weeks ago were singing a very different tune, right? And now they're here and coming and saying, no, we will change this. I was wrong then. Were you wrong then and right and now changing changing what you believe because now you're in power? Or is it a genuine, a genuine change of heart? So we've got to be able to ask ourselves, and if I was asked, if there's even one single person in cabinet right now who was in the previous cabinet, then, as they always say, one spoiled apple will spoil the rest.
The snake is not going to turn into a lizard.
Exactly.
But here they are. The cabinet has been sworn in, and fortunately for some and unfortunately for others, they are sworn in. They've gone through Parliament for one reason or another. They've won the vetting process. They've been sworn in. They've got flags on their vehicles now. They're being called sir and madam. They're in office. From tomorrow or Monday, we should expect to see a lot of them commenting and handling national affairs. What do you think the next 2.5 years portends for the country, for them in particular that have been put in office, for the man at the house on the hill, and for Kenya?
Many of those who are in cabinet are actually politicians as well. So, looking at it, because, you've got to be able to change based on what's happening, right? So, yes, we might have wanted different people there, but then now these are the people that we've been given. So now it's to hold them responsible. If I was any of those people, even right now, I'll not be celebrating that position. I'll be trying to figure out what were the problems that were there, what are the issues, and I will now try to repair my image and reputation to the people of Kenya. The only way you can do that is by performing. Not by word of mouth, but by actually delivering and showing that, look, I've done this, and I've done this, right? Because if we don't go about it in that particular way, we're going to get to the time of elections and it's going to go back to the same thing. If you support me in this, I'm going to give you a position. If you support me in this, I'm going to give you a position. Right now, when you look at cabinet, all that's happened is that it's a political tool where now we've seen the politicians coming together to protect themselves. Not to serve the Kenyan people, but to protect themselves. And that is okay in a way, if you really look at it, if you get there and you now serve the Kenyans. I was talking to a couple of people today and said, it's interesting that, you actually have some dictatorships where the people, the leaders are known to be dictators. The government is known to be, oppressive, but they still deliver for their people. So you see, that's a catch-22, because even if the people were thinking of, okay, we're not happy with the way we're treated, but I'm able to go to hospital, I'm able to, earn my daily bread, I'm actually able to function. But we are right now in a country where we're not able to function, and the people who are being put there are just, are rubbing it into our faces. Okay? When you come and see, like the other day in Parliament, when an MP was saying, I'm not happy with what the judiciary had said, and we need to curtail and give them less budget. Forgetting that the judiciary was doing that because it was unconstitutional. They were talking about something that was unconstitutional, and they're saying this cannot happen. And an MP says, cut their budget. I'm surprised that the people that particular legislator represents have not found a way to already just recall them and put someone else there. So much as we are complaining about who's in government, we need to look at ourselves as people as well, because who vetted the CSs?
Right.
It's the parliamentarians. Who put them there? We put them there.
Right.
So it comes back to us, and it's not about going to the streets, but it's sitting down and saying, what does the Constitution allow us to do if we want to change these people? And let's change them and move on. All right.
Haron, you've got new CSs, like it or not, here they are. What do you think is the strategy going to be to do what Mr. Kisaka is saying, keep them accountable between now and then? What are your views on that? Real quick.
I think we should have a system or something to do with, I was thinking, For example, we have regional development in each of the regions. We have an effect that each of the cabinet positions plays on each of the regions of Kenya. So if we can have the people say the government is to talk to its people because they're serving us, not them. So they should talk to us. If, for example, it's roads, we can have maybe once in a while, once a month, we can have a meeting with the head of the region, maybe the MP or the governor, who can take our issues further to the national level. So we can have a debate with them, not a debate per se, but a talk, which we can address our current issues, and we cannot, it's like we'll be having a list, so we'll cancel out each of the expectations. If we expect this and they do it, we have that cancelled out, and we keep moving forward. So if they can be accountable and we can find a system, maybe that one that I'm proposing, to keep them accountable, maybe we can move forward.
All right. Gentlemen, I like to say this. Sometimes the subject is bigger than the time that we have. I'd like to give both of you an opportunity to talk to Kenyans. Thoughts, Mr. Kisaka, this is your camera, or perhaps that one. Talk to us from where you sit. Which way forward? Which way for the next 2.5 years? What message do you have for Kenyans? Brief as you can. Thank you.
For me, I would say, number one, where we are right now, read the Constitution. Start from there. Understand what it expects of us, understand what it allows us to do, and then look at the leadership that we've got and use the Constitution to be able to now hold them accountable. If it states that, the way it states that we can be able to replace these leaders, find it in yourself to find people who are of like minds and say, okay, yes, we want to replace 1, 2, 3. But as you're doing that, do not say we're replacing and remove the people who are there before you know who you're going to put in. Because you do not want to remove someone and maybe put in someone who's worse, or create a vacuum, because vacuums will always be filled and you do not know who's going to fill them. So we need to take a step back and look and say, we've come this far. What next? By the time we come to the elections in 2027, do we have the right people who are going to be able to take up the positions that we are agitating about and bring the change that we are expecting for this country? Thank you.
All right. Haron, your comment to Kenya, please.
I'd like to say that, to begin with, charity begins at home. So for us to have a national change, for us to have a better Kenya, we need to start by bettering ourselves first, learn what we are supposed to learn what is going to keep us moving forward, learn what will make a better Kenya for me and for the rest of us, so that tomorrow our children can be proud that at least we did something that is different from what we found. I think that's mostly it.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you for joining us this evening and for talking to us. We had Mr. Haron Waweru. Thank you so much for coming. And we had Mr. Sikolia Kisaka as well. Thank you, gentlemen. Good people at home, thank you for watching. If I may sample some of your feedback, Evans Avire from Nairobi says, Gen Zs are right, but give the government time to implement their demands. Somebody else called Kundu from Bungoma, you say, unafurahi hakuna maandamano. That's Kundu. Elias from Juja, you say, the day was calm, no demos experienced from this side. And somebody else here, you haven't left your name, you say, you're happy that we're talking about this. The cost of living is high and we are low people. We have put money in front of every other virtue. Yes, thank you so much. A lot of people are sending in their feedback, but I just want to say thank you for choosing us to inform you tonight. It's been my absolute pleasure and my humble responsibility to bring you the news and the discussion tonight. My name is Victor Muyakane. Do have a good night full of God's blessings.